Hello and welcome. I am Raziel, and so today I want to talk about Slaanesh. Now, I like Chaos. Chaos are an interesting faction, and they're a great faction if you want to diversify, and Demons if you want to be, cheap, because Demons can be used in every game. Horus Heresy, 40k, Age of Sigmar, and they will have a PDF army list for the old world. So I do enjoy Chaos, but I really don't like Slaanesh. Every time I do an undivided army, I will do my utmost to avoid adding Slaanesh into that force. I will go without that one faction or sub-faction just for reasons. I wanted to try and have a bit of self-reflection on this and see why do I avoid Slaanesh like the plague. I want it because I like Nurgle and the Death Guard. So maybe it's because I'm an Eldar player. I'm an Eldar player since 3rd edition. I've liked them since 2nd edition. So maybe the animosity comes through that. I like that force. That faction is my favourite faction. It has some of my favourite models for 40k, such as the Wraithlord. I love the Wraithlord model. I enjoy using it. I enjoy building it. To the point now I can just throw the instructions away and just build it pretty much blindfolded at this point. So maybe it's that. And I realise not really, because I like Loyalist Space Marines. I've collected Loyalist Space Marines since 2nd edition. And, well, we could still use the animosity argument because I like the Iron Warriors. They're one of my favourite legions of Chaos. And I really don't like the Imperial Fists. I like the Crimson Fists. I like the Black Templars. I even like the Soul Drinkers. But the Imperial Fists themselves, I don't like them. But I know why I don't like the Imperial Fists. It's because their lore is not well written. If you look at any Imperial Fist book, you will find that they all get slaughtered really hard. They get their asses handed to them. They are Ultramarines without the plot armor. And this isn't just the Imperial Fists either. This includes their successors. House Reeds, Black Templars took massive numbers. I mean, massive numbers even for Black Templars. Crimson Fists, of course, we had Rindsworld absolutely devastated, down to like less than half of their entire, I think it was like 100 left, and of course all the Soul Drinkers died. So it's weird, really. So when I started talking, then I thought, what if I look at each Chaos Gods individually? Now let's look at Tzeentch. I do like Tzeentch. I like the Thousand Suns. I like the fact that they have this very human flaw, but they try to do the right thing but end up messing it up anyway. I like the demons of Tzeentch. They always look good, and I like, the story of Tzeentch. It's this idea that he guarantees power for you. He gives you the knowledge to obtain power, and everything he does, is to allow you to do what you want with it. He is, he is the god of free will with extra knowledge. So you could obtain power through that. And of course, knowledge is power. And I think that's really interesting. It could be considered quite shallow because, Tzeentch doesn't really do that much. He just gives the knowledge that he wants to. But he, of course, has his plans and twists and turns that he wishes to do and everything else. Then there is Nurgle. I'm quite a big fan of Nurgle, actually. I do enjoy Nurgle. They're always usually easy to paint, and they're fun to build, and they always look kind of cool, and they always look really jolly. Now, Nurgle is the acceptance of your place in the universe. That's kind of the most simplistic version I can put of it. You could argue he gives the most life to any other god. He doesn't give. He gives more life than any other god, I should say. And because when he kills with diseases, he has produced more life or either microbes. But I mean, it's a bit of an argument because you could say, what's the difference between sentient life and non-sentient life, such as microbes? But like I said, this puts you in the point of the life cycle. You die, you get decomposed, your body then produces more life for the grass and the trees, which gets eaten, and therefore that gets eaten in turn, and this cycle continues and continues. The idea of Nurgle is really that you are in your place, and you're happy with it. And, most people like that sort of acceptance, and it is a way to be where, you want to be where you know what you're doing. You know everything, and that's it. You know everything you need to do, and you're happy in your little routine. And it goes on and on and on until the day you die. But it continues because your death continues the life cycle anyway. Then there's Khorne. Now Khorne can be considered the most shallow of the Chaos gods. Here he is the god of war and murder. I know there's always the argument that he is also the god of justice. I find this argument to be a bit flawed, as he didn't ask Night Lords to be his chosen legion. He wanted Blood Angels first, which is very savage, kind of also very artistic, which actually makes sense because a good warrior is a live warrior and one with a clear mind. A berserker isn't as good as a well-trained soldier. But he went with World Eaters, and they're all about the wanton war and murder. And again, this is actually something that can be considered something that helps your civilization. And war is not a good thing. I'm not just saying that. I'm saying it can help. Because wars of invasion are usually for the resources that you need. We can even see this in the animal world with the chimpanzees and ants. They often go to war for the same reasons, resources. And murder is just bad because murder is murder. But there's no joy in the murder. It's just the wanton savagery. It's the anger, the hate. There is no joy in that. They do not enjoy it. They're not like, we're happy to go time, happy tree friends sort of people who go and do it. They are absolutely raving, angry berserkers. And there you go. And like I said, he is a very shallow god. And then we get to Slaanesh. Slaanesh is the god of excess. And to me, this could be considered the deepest, even deeper than Tzeentch, on a more emotional level or anything like that, to see how well this could be done. And I find that's where my problem lies. It's not just that it's chaos, it's Slaanesh, it's that there is so much that can be done with them that is never even hinted at. Now, remember when those, plague warpoxes got released or announced? I saw that big fat guy with a stomach which is all a mouth, and he's fat, and he's like a butcher. And my first thought was, finally, they're doing something with Slaanesh. And I actually thought, and I still today think he would make a great Slaaneshi demon prince. He is the epitome of gluttony, of an excess of hunger. He will always be hungry. He always needs to eat for the joy of eating, and it doesn't matter what he eats. And that can make him even more barbaric, but he is in the enjoyment. He will eat anything, and just for the sheer taste and joy of this. But Games Workshop goes with sex and drugs. And yes, these are usually the two vices which are most taboo in today's society. But they end up being quite boring. They end up being word bearers taking slaves for work. Well, word bearers taken for manual labour, and Emperor's children taken for the oldest form of work. And this gets, like I said, tedious. It's just the same thing over and over again with no real expansion on this. And I think excess is interesting. I think it's an interesting concept, and it's an interesting way we could dig into the human psyche via Slaanesh. What is excess and what makes people go that way? And why does Slaanesh want people to do that? Well, one reason, because it makes them slovenly. It makes them more docile. It makes them more easier to manipulate. It's easy to manipulate someone if they are an addict. You know what you can use against them, or get them to do what you want. And this is what I think Slaanesh could do. And it's not just a sex and drugs bit. If you have someone who is a glutton, always wanting to eat, let's say he's addicted to food, starve him, and you got someone who will worship you no end every time you provide food, because he needs that food for enjoyment, not just for nourishment, but because of the joy of eating. And then we have other excesses as well. We very rarely talk about alcoholism within the 40k, and this is probably one of the most common forms of excess. A phrase I've heard a lot is, one drink is not enough and 1,000 is too many, which is the best example of this form of excess. You cannot enjoy the one drink because you need many, many more, but you can't stop at 1,000 either, because it won't do you. So there, and I think this, like I said, this is things that we never see Slaanesh do. We never see them go out of sex and murder. Even their demons could be different. We could have better looking demons rather than just the skinny, hermaphroditic demonettes. We could have a glutton there who's super strong, but he needs to eat, and he goes in and he's just starts eating everything. We've had rules like that with the Ogres. And it's interesting how the Ogres have a different god. And it's not Slaanesh, they have the Great Maw. And I would like to see that the Great Maw end up being actually Slaanesh, or a part of Slaanesh. More intrigued with the Gluttony side and this needing to eat. Ogres are always hungry no matter how much they eat. But for some reason this has never been part of Slaanesh's plan. Having a race which is solely dedicated to eating, like the Ogre Kingdoms, would be an interesting aspect of Slaanesh. And it would be really fun to see this actually more deeply involved and explored. Because if you think about it, if you've got the Ogres there who are always hungry, and you have a god there who is deliberately keeping them hungry, is keeping them docile. Well, I wouldn't say docile, but docile to them and subservient to them, to the point that they will literally do anything to please the god of excess to get more food. It's not about them getting more food, it's about pleasing the god. Whereas Slaanesh, the worshippers, are all about the sex and violence. And that's it. And I do think my biggest issue with Slaanesh is that there is so much to be explored here which never gets explored, and it never gets seen upon or shown, and it's so more interesting, and excess could be so much more. And then there was the other thing. They use the term pride, and they want perfection, which you can never obtain. But there is, I don't know if this is a satirical take on modern art, to be honest with you. It could be, but it's disgusting, it's gross. Whereas you could see that an artist wanting to paint the perfect picture, worshipping Slaanesh, because that's all he wants. He wants to paint the perfect picture. And he is so driven to doing that one thing that he sells his soul to Slaanesh to get it perfect. We never see this pride side anymore. We had it in Horus Heresy, and this is how they fell. But once they sort of fell, they ended up not being a very proud-foot legion anymore. They lost that pride. They lost it all. It was in the Dark Imperium book that we see that, the flagship of the Emperor's Children was no longer this beautiful ship. It was debased. I could see, the picture of the Emperor was debased, but it wasn't done beautifully. I would think it would have done better if it somehow was more beautiful with the Slaanesh, with the Emperor bowing down to Fulgrim, rather than being the other way around, being a far better picture, more perfect. And I would have seen, Robert Gulliman would have found that far more offensive than this dirty, disgusting image that he saw. So there you go. That's my thoughts on Slaanesh, and thank you very much for watching. Just don't take this video too seriously, it's just some thoughts. I'm trying something new lately. I want to talk more about lore and, my personal opinions on it and what sort of things I like and don't like. I will be doing more positive videos. I do like doing the I love videos because I love talking about armies I like. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. As again, links to Wayland Games down below as always if you wish to save money on your Warhammer. And there is, what else is there? There is Forbidden Planet if you like comics. Hold on. Yeah, Wayland Games for up to 20% off and free delivery off to £20. This isn't scripted. I just got this is the best way to sell it. And I don't use I won't say a company that I don't use. There you go. I do go to Wayland Games. That's who I go to. There is of course Forbidden Planet. I like them as well for your comics and everything else. Comics, DVDs, anime, plushies, toys, all that cool stuff. And my comic as well. That's down there. That's not in Forbidden Planet. That's actually I get 46% of every penny of it. You pay for one, I get 6% profit of that. I know it's a high profit margin. I hope you enjoy it. I know some of you guys have bought it, and I'm really happy because I think it makes me feel great seeing that. And my art and t-shirts and cups and everything else, like what everyone else does. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a good day, and I'd like to hear your thoughts down below. Bye bye.